mean, if you're unsure what that is, you probably don't have them, so just select it. Yeah. Oh, also, if you save this QR code, upload your resume later, just go through the same link. And it'll update it. So it's won't put into positions, it's all the same email. Again, angle this a little bit better so it's not like but I felt weird like the people on Zoom I'm just gonna see my shirt if I like didn't angle it right because that's all they could see is like my face in the presentation. I think they're oh, they're in the waiting room. There we go.
Hi there, for those on the Zoom room, hopefully you all can hear it. While you're waiting, if you all can fill out the QR code, just hover over it with your iPhone or Android. And fill out our registration. Can someone in the chat just let us know if you can hear us? Just let us know.
Oh,
You hear us.
we're getting chats. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to everyone. Letting us know.
Just like the cameras coming out from there instead of that way.
Oh yeah, sorry, I moved the camera
cameras.
out. Uh-oh.
Again, while you all are waiting.
So you're
on the
saying-
I, like,
Zoom room,
moved
if you can fill out
So
the
they're
QR
showing,
code.
you're saying the camera's projecting
Yeah.
her face right now?
Mhm.
I can't even find the camera now because I moved it down out of the way
Yeah,
out
if
of
we
the
click on the
presentation.
input, is there like an option?
Oh, integrated
Yeah,
webcam.
so it's just.
Well, stop video. Well, you share. Share. Yeah, you just share and then just stop
Mhm.
video.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there's gonna be no video. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sharing your screen.
It looks like, I don't know, is there a way to just let them in without them?
Again, so sorry for those that have heard you multiple times, but for those that are joining in the Zoom room, if you could click the QR code while we're waiting. Just hover over it.
smart. Like I can like sit here and just
Yeah,
keep accepting people. as they come in.
audio is not clear.
Is the link expired?
The link is not expired.
Okay. So we can't. fill it
So
out later.
what I would recommend is using the microphone so that they can hear on the Zoom.
And then let's say you don't have a resume, the resume is not a required question. You, as long as you just use. the
Yeah,
same
and then
link
if you
and
just want to
same
keep
email,
admitting them, then you guys can get started.
Okay.
So, yeah,
But it'll, that is showing on the screen.
And then,
So
you
we
know,
like,
what a great
move
way
on.
to track the list, right? We're gonna get some awesome resumes from our presentation.
okay, maybe just do it every once in a while. But just leave it out for now. Just leave it out for now.
Or should it show on the screen that we only selected 5 songs?
I don't think it matters with with the,
Like when we share screen, we didn't just share, we just shared the fire.
oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
just sharing the present.
I should
Yeah.
only just share the.
You can try that.
I think it's already set like that. Yeah.
92 is not as good. I know. Great.
I know, I was gonna say, can we, oh, let's look if there's more people still waiting.
While we're waiting for the technology to be figured out, does anyone have any?
We filled out the
data?
form from the QR code.
Yeah, right.
It cause an error if we filled that again.
The audacity, right? But
No, it
we'll
won't.
make this fun. This isn't scary. This isn't gonna be like.
Or that's to everyone.
Well, oh well. No. No. Okay, so everyone can see the presentation.
Wow, wow, why is it here in person?
All right.
Jeez.
No one else needs to be let
I can
in?
tell you
We're
the
good?
answer.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can just go ahead and get started, but Stephen, if you want to
Yeah.
pull it
Yeah.
up maybe.
Yeah, I
like a
can
few
monitor
minutes
that.
and just kinda
Yeah.
That's a shame, 'cause I'm still working on it.
And then is it recording?
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
There's construction engineers out there. Where you going?
All right, I think we're ready.
Perfect.
So,
Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin Grady. I am actually the USC campus co-lead. So if you have any questions after this, go ahead and direct them to me. And will be your point of contact moving forward for any opportunities you're interested in here at Northrop Grumman. And then we also have Camilla.
Hi, everyone. My name is Camilla Taylor. I am another fellow recruiter from Northrop Grumman. I am not a school lead for USC, but you can certainly still ask me any questions that come up.
And just to address any questions for the people on Zoom right now, the QR code, you can submit information multiple times. I highly recommend that you use the same email, or else it does kind of create duplicate candidates in our yellow platform. So as long as you use the same email and continue to update your information in yellow, that QR code throughout this entire fall, you should be good to go.
it shouldn't create an error. Alrighty, so let's get started for building an effective resume. Okay, so here's our agenda. We will go over resume content, so the purpose of a resume, general tips. Then I'll hand it over to Camilla for all the sections of how to write your resume, a strong resume, and then we'll go over things to avoid and end with Q&A. So what is a resume? A resume is your commercial ad for yourself. This is where you're going to want to showcase all of your strengths in order to network with people, get interviews, and job hunt as well. So you will definitely want to highlight specific accomplishments here and experiences. The impact of a resume is that it does make a first impression. That's normally the first thing is your resume, especially when you're applying for jobs. So although it doesn't guarantee you a role, you definitely want to have a strong one because it can keep you from getting interviews. And who reviews your resume, The hiring managers and the recruiters are normally the first people to see your resumes and review them. So we're both recruiters and we're here to pretty much help you, write a strong one. So the primary purpose of a resume is to get an interview. Thank you. Resumes help secure interviews, and through interviews, you can secure a job. Okay, general tips for resumes. We want to use the 3 C's: clear, concise, and consistent. You want a clear message with clean and simple language. Use concise statements, allowing readers to quickly identify knowledge, skills, and abilities, and consistent, easy to read format. So some of the basic formatting tips I would probably want to highlight is the first one. Never go under a 10-point font. It can be really hard to read if you're going through multiple resumes in a day. You want to make sure, I would say at least 12, honestly. I probably would go below 12, just so it's easier to read. I know sometimes gets a little tricky when you want to keep your resume maybe to 1 page, but definitely if the resume flows into 2 pages because you have a 12-point font, I think that's totally fine. It's easy for us to even kind of scroll down and read. I definitely also recommend using bullet points over paragraph format. Bullet points are the best. Really easy for us to read when we're looking through things. Also easy to highlight without having to come up with, a ton of things to write in full sentences. And also another one to highlight is use consistent tenses. So anything in the past that you've done in the past, use past tenses. And for current experiences, you want to use present tense. I know that sounds pretty simple, but you can always catch yourself kind of still talking in present tense for things that you've done in the past, and it just kind of throws off the reader when they're reading it, because then they're like, wait, are they doing it right now, or did they do it in the past? So definitely recommend that. And then also definitely spell check. This also seems probably like an obvious one, but I want to bring it up again. There is no shame in having someone else check and proofread your resume to check for things. I've done it myself in my own resume, spell check, because I've written a resume and thought it was great. I've looked it over 5 times, someone else catches something wrong. So definitely recommend always spell checking the grammar, because managers, especially engineering managers, they will catch it instantly. So yes, definitely use that. And then also when it comes to bold typeface, underlining, capitalization, I think it's good to use when you're sectioning off pieces, but you definitely want to stay away from that. You don't want to use it too often, or else it kind of, again, throws off the reader's eye. So definitely want to keep it consistent if you're going to bold face like just certain sections. And then final bonus tip is to utilize your university alma mater's career services resources. So kind of like right now. And I'll pass it over to Camille.
Awesome. Thanks, Kaylee. So yes, resumes, right? Who loves them? No one raised their hand. Oh, people in the back love them. Yes. Awesome. Well, of course, I also want to just really mention that we can be telling you information and career services could be telling you something different. There's nothing objective about resumes, truly nothing objective, and I'm probably sure that stressed people out here in this room, and that's just the truth. I mean, I could be telling you something that contradicts something else that someone else is telling you, and that's completely okay. At the end of the day, this 1 to 2 page is truly just to help you get an interview. You don't have to lay out everything that you've ever done in your entire life on this resume. It is completely okay, because the idea is when someone looks at your resume, they're like, huh, I'm interested in that person working for Rocky. I'm interested in that person working for Ball Aerospace. And they're going to take your resume and they're going to have it in the interview. And so they're going to constantly refer to it, and you can constantly refer to it too as you're going through the interview to help you remember things that you did in that particular position. So again, please don't feel like you need to lay out your entire life story. We know you want to write essays. We know you're completely capable of it, but we just are looking for some information, again, to open that door to the interview. I also want to mention these 1 to 2 pages aren't the entire life story and aren't the entire picture of who you are and what you can bring to the table. We totally get it, okay? But we just don't have that much time. We're going through resumes. I constantly have nightmares about resumes because I have go through 100 a day or something of that nature. I like dream about resumes, or I guess have nightmares about resumes. It's not a fun time sometimes. But when you all have good laid out resumes, it makes our jobs easier. It makes it easier for you to get an interview. We were just talking about earlier how folks sometimes don't get jobs that they're perfectly qualified for because we don't have time to go through the organizational format that they laid out for us. I just don't have time for it. I'm sure Kaylee doesn't have time for it. We just get so many. So that's why this presentation, not to shame on the other presentations, that's why this presentation is the most important because it opens the door. Now, talking about format, again, this is one option, but this is probably the easiest for us to go through. So next slide, please. Now you're probably like, header and contact information, why are they talking about that? You wouldn't believe what we see. You wouldn't believe it. Let's talk about it. So of course, your name, feel free to include your preferred name, but if that is not your legal name, please identify that because we don't know that. We can't assume it's not or it is. So if it is a preferred name, Camilla is my middle name. My first name is Maria. So I usually put Camilla around quotes to identify that's my preferred name, but that's also my middle name. So please just identify that. Your location, you don't necessarily need to include your permanent address. We understand you're in school, you might have 2 different addresses. You might want to identify it, you don't need to. That's completely okay. I would say at the bare minimum, at least include the city, state, and zip code. So that way we know where you're coming from. If we need to offer you a relocation assistance of some sort, an intern stipend, whatever it is, it just helps us identify where you're coming from. Your phone number, this is the most important part. Everyone promised me after today's session, they are going to clear out their voicemails. Everyone promised me that. You laugh, but there's so many times where I call someone and their voicemail box hasn't been set up yet. We're like, you all are applying for jobs. How is it not set up yet? It is cringe for me on the other end. And I get it, who wants to answer phone calls nowadays? I know I didn't in college. So we get it, but please make sure your voicemail box is set up and it's empty. So we can leave the voicemail to tell you to call us back, and we can give you the proper callback number. So please just check for that. Again, and then make sure your voicemail greeting is appropriate. We heard a story yesterday where someone had one of those jokester voicemails where they're like, hey, this is Camilla. And then they're answering and they're talking to the person, they think they're talking to the person. And then the person goes, just kidding, this is a voicemail. Not cute, not cute, not funny for us, because we have things to do. We don't have time to be joked. I don't have time to be pulled pranks on. I just want to talk to you. So please make sure your voicemail is also appropriate. Your email address, you can see cutiepatootie@gmail.com might not be the best email address for a professional setting. We get it, it's a cute email. I like it. It's not mine, so don't email that. But we completely understand. Just make sure you're using an appropriate email. If you do use your .edu account, please make sure to check in to see how active it's going to be after you graduate. Because we still have your resume forever. But we might have it for a long time. I want to reach back out to you later on. And if your email address doesn't work, we're just going to think maybe you're not interested because you didn't respond to our email. Of course, we're going to give you a call, but please just make sure that email address, if you are using a .edu, completely fine. We kind of expect it, but just check in to see how long it's going to exist after you graduate. And then security clearance, if you have one, mark that, highlight that for yourself. That's huge for us. We fight for candidates who have security clearances. They're awesome. It's great. So make that marketable for yourself. Put that near your name. That's the first thing a manager is going to see. They have a security clearance. I'm immediately going to take a look. Even if you don't have a security clearance, but you're eligible for one, usually to be eligible for a security clearance, you do have to have a U.S. citizenship of some sort. That's just through the federal government, not through Northrop Grumman. Then mark that. Mark that you are eligible for a security clearance. And then if you don't know if you're eligible, take some time to do some research and see if you are. And then put that on your resume. And then, of course, your LinkedIn URL and your website. I'm going to be honest, sometimes I don't look at your LinkedIn URL. I know, I'm a recruiter, kind of like, it's shameful to say, but I just don't have time. That's why we ask for your resume. We ask for your resume so that way we can get a snippet. So don't be dependent on us looking at this URL and feel like you need to hide stuff from your resume. That could be really pertinent to you getting an interview. Next slide, please. Objective statement. Who here knows what an objective statement is without looking at the slide? Anyone? Don't be shy. You can tell I'm not a serious person. The day I become serious is a scary day. Yes, sir. Yeah, it can be a professional summary. It's a type of that. Great leeway. What is a professional?
Probably somewhere more can offer to the home.
Exactly. You're right on it. It means that you're kind of telling us, what are you looking for? Maybe some of you are like, I don't know what I'm looking for. That's completely okay. Don't write that though. We can get, you guys are probably like 19 to 20 something, maybe not, but that's completely okay. But just kind of give us some sort of thing to play with. Because what happens is we have your resume, maybe we meet you at the next career fair. We have your resume and we're looking at it and we're like, we like this candidate, but I have no idea what manager to send it to. I have no idea if he's interested in systems engineering or mechanical engineering or computer science or cybersecurity. I have no idea. And think about it. How would we know if that's not going to be listed on your resume? So that's what an objective statement, exactly like you said, sir, can steer us in the right direction based off of what you have to offer or what you're looking for. And if you're thinking, but I don't have anything to offer, you do. And we're going to talk about that in just a bit. Now, taking a look at these objective statements, but I want to clarify something. He mentioned professional summary. That's usually the terminology that you would use after you've been in your career for a while. Usually that objective statement turns into a professional summary. And they're not long. I say summary meaning like only 1 to 2 sentences. And we'll talk about it here. So again, it clarifies what you're looking for. What is your goal at the end of the day? And then it's tailored to, again, the position you're applying for. Don't have an objective statement saying you're looking for a mechanical engineering position, but you're applying to a systems test engineering position. Because then I'm going to be confused. And then I'm probably not going to get your resume. That's being brutal, though. And then con, again, it can close the doors, just like how I mentioned. You just want to make sure you're always tailoring your resume. It's never one shoe fits all for a resume when you're applying to a job. Now, looking at the recommendation side, look at the differences of the example. Kind of makes sense, right? How this can help us find a position for you. At the end of the day, I'm not trying to get you into Northrop Grumman. I'm trying to get you into Northrop Grumman for a job that best suits you. I want you all at Northrop Grumman. I want you all to have a job with us. But I want it to be a job that's interesting to you, that you can grow in, that you can develop your career in, and that is fun in, to be honest. So that's why these pieces are really helpful for me. So it's hard, I get it. Like I mentioned, some of you are like, I truly just don't have any idea. Then mention that in a more professional state, right? Let us know. Because then, of course, that opens the door for us on who we're going to send your resume to. Now, one piece of this that I really like is how it highlights the location. If you all are open to just going anywhere, you can put that in your objective statement. No location preference. Because that also helps us kind of open the door for you. Any questions about this? Yes.
So if I'm applying for a specific position where I know where is it, like the job, like data scientist, do they still have to include like the objective statement? Because it's very specific, you know?
Yeah, so I would, doesn't hurt, right? It just kind of furthers your point that you are interested in this position. And it just helps us confirm, okay, this candidate does want this particular position. They're not just applying for every position that comes up on our career site. Yes.
So as you earlier mentioned that it's a professional summary. So if someone has an experience of like 4 to 7 years or 3 to 4 years, what would it look like?
It would still look pretty similar to this. You would just highlight your previous 4 to 7 years. So you would mention in here, you know, an engineer with previous 4 to 7 years of experience looking for a position, fill in the blank. Yeah. So it doesn't really change. Last question, yes. Exactly, yep, it goes to the top. So we're kind of running through the section. So we talked about header, right, and contact information. Now we're at objective statements or professional summary if you have that experience. And now we're going to lead into the next slide, which is experience. Education, just kidding. With education, This is super important because this helps you meet the basic qualifications of our position. So really taking a look at this is really going to help us understand that you qualify for any internship or entry-level position with us. So listing the most recent education first, if you are in a master's degree, a bachelor's degree, you're doing a 4+1 program. We love 4+1 programs. If you don't know what that means in 5 years, you are graduating with your bachelor's and your master's. It is a great deal. This is a cheaper deal. I think it's great. So please make sure you're listing even and highlighting a 4+1 program. Now, looking at this, please avoid any high school references. Just doesn't make sense. It's not really applicable. I'm sure you all were 4.0 students. That's why you got to USC. It's because you all were really strong in high school. You did awesome extracurriculars. That's how you got here. So we don't necessarily need to be reminded of things that you did in high school, because also every high school education is different. So just recognize that. And then list the school, degree, and major. If you're doing double majors, totally fine. Minors, yes. And then please, please, please list your GPA. The basic qualification for our position is a 3.0. So please just list that. That's a cumulative GPA, not a technical or major or minors one. It's a cumulative GPA. So a great example is right there. Super easy does it. Has all the information we need. We know this person's in their master's degree, they're going to graduate, or they did graduate, and they have their GPA. And then additional considerations. Where on my resume should I have my education section? Just gave you the answer. Where should you have it? Yeah, good. That answer. Should I include coursework and projects? What do you guys think? If it's, I'm sorry, relevant? Yes. Exactly, if it's relevant to the position you're applying for. Remember how I said you all have experience? The experience doesn't just take place in an industry setting, it also takes place in the classroom. So recognize you're taking the coursework needed to do the job. That is the experience. That is what we're asking of you. Because every other engineering manager has been in your position and has taken those courses as well. So they remember those courses, I think. I hope they took it. So they're like, you know, oh, I remember taking linear algebra or something. That's an applicable course to the position. Now, we all know you all took Calculus 1. We all know you all took Calculus 2. So at that point, courses like that don't really make the best sense to put on your resume. But if you're pretty early on in your collegiate career, we get it. We know. If that's relevant, put it on the coursework or on your resume. If you're asking yourself if it's relevant, probably not, because you wouldn't be asking yourself if it truly was, right? Awesome. And then what about certifications and or training? Should you put that on your resume? Yes, exactly. If it's relevant. That's probably my biggest takeaway. Please put it on if it's relevant. Yes.
What if your certifications expire?
Then make that note. You know, you have the certification, it's expired, depending on what it is. Might be super easy to reactivate. It might be still attractive to the hiring manager that's for employment. I'm going to run through just because of time, and then we'll have a section at the end for the Q&A, as well as we'll also have a section on that same Q&A slide where the QR code will populate as well. So if you missed that, you can fill it out. Awesome. Next one. Experience. Dun, 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 right? I feel like this is the meat. This is where, this is all a hamburger, right? A cheeseburger. This is the meat of the burger. I feel like you guys are nervous or need more coffee. I don't know. Which one is it? Is it coffee? Yeah, I remember those days. So with experience, let's talk about it. So of course, we want to know what you've done in an industry setting or in a job of some sort. Even if that means that you're working at Papa John's and you want to list that, first off, ask yourself if that's relevant to the position. Pretty cool, right? We like recognize that you have a job. You know, you all are college students. I was a broke college student. I have no shame in admitting that about myself. And I had to work. And it might not have been in the industry that I wanted to be in at the time, but I just had to have a job because I needed the money. So definitely take a look at that and evaluate that for yourself. But most of the time, we do want you to list it in this order. So job title, company name, company location, dates of employment, and then kind of responsibilities with highlighting your accomplishments. I do not want to be reiterated the job description. Please don't just tell me what the job description is. Tell me how you took that job description and elevated it to the next level. Right? We know that if you worked as a cashier at Papa John's, that you took money and you had to be accounted for at the end of the day with when it came to the books. Kind of makes sense when it's a cashier. But tell me how you did that and you were able to save, I don't know, $100 because you realized that there was cashiers that weren't entering in the money right or entering in the order right. That's how that can be changed. We get as a cashier, you took the money, but how did you elevate that to the next level? And you all did. Don't tell me you didn't. You all did. Okay. Now, again, going back to what Kaylee was mentioning, listing it as a bullet format, making sure you're avoiding the pronouns. So don't just say, I worked as a cashier at Papa John's. You're starting it with that action verb dependent on whether or not you work there currently. And it's going to be associated with a current or a past tense. Now, just like I mentioned in the second bullet, there it is. So you want to quantify accomplishments. I love this in resumes. I don't know if you love this, but I love this because numbers speak so much quicker and speak so much louder. Because I see 50%. I don't even know what you did 50% in, but I'm like, wow, 50%. That's super cool. I'm gonna send this to a hiring manager. They did 50% in something. Good job. Now it might be a bad thing, but I didn't even read it. No, I'm just kidding. So taking a look at that, and anytime you can quantify, please do. Please do. On my resume, I quantify anything I possibly can. When I talked about recruitment events, I quantified it to like 800 plus recruitment events because I truly have done 800 plus recruitment events in my previous organization and this one. And 800 plus, I now took that one statement of just said conducted recruitment events, and I changed it to conducted 800 plus recruitment events. Immediately evaluates it and takes it to a whole different level. Lean on your most relevant coursework. We talked about that. Don't just give me general ed courses, give me relevant courses. And then don't assume your reader is familiar with anything. I don't know the acronyms or the coursework at USC. I don't know what the majors consist of. I don't even know the majors here. Right? I mean, we just have so many schools that we're dealing with that you cannot just include acronyms and say that and assume that we know what they are. It's just the truth. And if you think I'm going to take the time to just look at that acronym, look that acronym up on Google, maybe if I'm really interested in this resume and I want to take that time. But again, you just can't assume we have the time. So really make sure you're spelling everything out. And if it pushes you to the next 2 pages, then okay, reconsider. Do you need those 2 pages? If it's pushing you to 3 pages, definitely reconsider. Okay, what can I take out? What's not relevant? And then application tracking system. When I say those 3 words, does anyone know what that means? Yes.
Find an NLP application which takes the resume in PDF format and tries to extract information as much as possible, like filling in different fields.
Exactly. So what he was mentioning for those that maybe couldn't hear in the Zoom is it means that sometimes some organizations, what they do is they look for keywords in your resume based off the job description. That's why Career Services tells you to incorporate keywords from the job description into your resume. We don't have that. Your resume, if it is being reviewed and being pushed onto a hiring manager, it is being evaluated by a recruiter. There's no application tracking system that either eliminates you from the job process or incorporates you from the job seeking process. It is, your resumes are being evaluated by a recruiter. It definitely still helps though, if you're incorporating that terminology from the job description into your resume, you should still keep that as a best practice. However, we're not just going to immediately eliminate you or incorporate you from the job seeking process because we're having a computer tell us whether or not you should get this interview. Yeah. Just shout out to Northrop Grumman. And then to the right over here, you can take a look at the accomplishments and awards, leadership and organizations. That also should be featured on your resume. You being involved in any engineering societies, getting any awards, class ranking, competitions, publications. If you're in the middle of a publication, note that you're still doing a publication. So yeah. Next slide, please. Now, getting stuck. How many times have people gotten stuck on a resume? Right? Oh yeah. Me too. My hand's raised for a reason. So I get it. You're gonna get stuck. You should not be doing your resume all in one day. Do not do your resume before the night of a career fair, please. Do not do that. That's where the mistakes happen. That's where the spelling mistakes happen. People even misspell their email address. I'm like, how do you misspell your email address? That's easy, right? So just make sure you're not doing it before. Please, everyone raise your hand. Raise your hand. I promise I will not do
I will not do
my resume
my resume
the night before career fair.
the night before a career.
Okay, you all made that promise, and on Zoom, you made that promise too, okay? Please remember that. So if you're getting stuck, refer to the job description and find where you excelled in those everyday tasks. So what I mean by that is the job description for maybe that Papa John's job that you had, that internship at Lockheed Martin, refer back to that to help you remember, oh yeah, that was what the internship incorporated, that's what that job incorporated, and then what did I do to excel? What were those accomplishments that I was able to accomplish while doing that job description? Because that was your everyday. That was your everyday. If you're like, I don't really know, then refer back to your performance review for that internship, or when you're talking to your manager, ask them. Really, they're going to provide you the terminology to incorporate into your resume. Because they're going to tell you, hey, remember when you did that event, or in my case, remember when you did that recruitment event with the $0 budget? Yeah, I do. So again, you can refer to your manager. If you still have access to your manager for a previous job, talk to them. Say, hey, do you mind taking a look at this one section of my resume to make sure it incorporated everything that I did? That's okay too. You're not gonna look at your entire resume. They can just look at that one section, and most of the time they're like, yeah, okay. And then run through your calendar. So if you're in the middle of like an internship or a middle of like a job you're currently in, really see what your day-to-day consisted of. Maybe you did things outside of your job description for that particular job, and you're like, oh, I forgot I volunteered for that one committee. Nobody asked you to really volunteer for that one committee. You wanted to volunteer. That was in your job description, and that's awesome. We want to see volunteering. We want to see that initiative. So really look into that, and your day-to-day calendar can help you with that. That's the first thing I look at when I update my resume. Because I'm like, what else have I taken on for my job? What else did I ask for? What other work did I ask for? And then take a break. It's okay to be stuck and say, I can't look at this anymore. I don't want to. That's why you don't do it the night before a career trip, because you can allow yourself to take a break. And you can allow yourself to say, okay, tomorrow's a new day. I can come back to that. Just forgive yourself for that, okay? We get resumes are hard. We get it. I completely understand. I hate doing resumes. I hate them. I probably shouldn't say that, but I do. I get it. Because how can you incorporate 1 to 2 pages to really be able to reflect who you are? They're hard. I get it. But just give yourself that forgiveness for freedom and peace. Next slide, please. Okay. So one way to write the actual bullet statements, right? I talked about don't use the pronoun, but maybe use what we call PAR. So the PAR is saying P, the problem, challenge, situation, or task you faced. A, the specific actions you took to resolve or improve the situation, and then R, the end results. And that's where you can quantify. Okay, if we can go to the next slide, we'll see some examples of what that looks like. Led robotics team. Led team of 5 in robotics competition, place 3rd of 20 teams. Easy. Notice the difference in how it takes that one statement and elevates it to a whole different level. And to be honest, with not that many additional words, it can still fit in that one line. So notice where maybe you can take your statements in your current resume and quantify them and elevate them with your accomplishments. Next slide. This is going to highlight the first word of each bullet point. So remember when we mentioned each first word of your bullet point should be an action verb that's either in current or present tense. Sometimes we look at resumes and each bullet point is like helped, create, help, manage, help. Here's some ways to shake it up and maybe change that up so that those that are reviewing your resume aren't going to be kind of overwhelmed with how many times you helped. Next slide. And then the skills. So skills, we will go below your experience section. This is where it gets like pretty subjective. Sometimes people are like skills go above experience, or they go down at the bottom. Again, it's pretty subjective when it comes to resumes, but this is what we're highlighting. So for your skills, please write down your most marketable skills and relevant skills to the position. So if there's any languages, software, if you're like a welder, you're in the middle of getting your like welding certification, mention that. Cut all non-relevant skills. I imagine most of you are pretty accurate or pretty good with Microsoft Suite, right? Y'all use Word, PowerPoint, whether we want to or not, Excel. Kind of expected nowadays in a job, not really a skill anymore. So we're kind of expecting that. Please get out your high school GPA. One time speaking of non-relevant skills, we had one resume where they included their TikTok information and their followers and their likes. I was super jealous. Wow, they're doing really well on TikTok. But again, not needed. Probably just gonna look you up on TikTok and then talk about it later. So just don't include that. And then, is your language proficiency needed? If you're applying for a job that's gonna be based in the United States, not really gonna be doing any international traveling, you know, definitely if you need to save spot, it's save room. Sometimes people just need to save room and cut it down to that one page. There are little things like that that you can take out in order to then save that space. That's really what it comes down to. Pair with the job description, I mentioned this, align terms with the job description terminology. You never know who's going to use that application tracking system, but at least you know now Northrop Grumman does it. And then mimic the company language, but actually mimic it because you know it, rather than mimic it because you think that's what we want. We do want it, but we also want you to know the language as well. And then rank it based off of perceived skill level. So if you're really good at welding, and you know have some experience in some software program, you know, make sure one is higher than the other. Awesome, next slide. Perfect. Things to avoid. We're almost done. With things to avoid, this is just everything we told you to do at the beginning, or what not to do at the beginning, and now we're flipping it. So we don't need fancy paper. Probably you'll submit it over PDF. So there is no fancy paper possibility, but just in case. And then please don't do more than 2 pages. Please check for typos and grammar. Let's see. Oh, please don't have any photos. We don't want to know. I mean, I do want to know what you look like when you come for the interview, but at the time with your resume, they can take up a lot of space. So don't feel I have a lot of headshots. I get a lot of headshots on resumes. They're pretty cool. They're really good. They look really nice in that photo, but we just don't need it at the time. Please make sure that there are dates. Don't just say present, because sometimes present might have been like May of this previous year. You just never updated it. So please actually include if it is present, you can specify it like, what is it? What month is it? September 2022 or something. But just make sure if you can incorporate dates, please make sure you are. And then don't stress the obvious, stress the uniqueness. This goes back into just don't tell me what your job description was. Tell me kind of how you took that into a whole different language or to a whole different level. And then buzzwords, slang, acronyms. We don't know what's going on here at UFC as far as like the acronyms they use. So just make sure you're spelling that out. Don't upload it as a Word document, because sometimes when we receive it or we like pops up on our end, it might be all out of whack. So make sure it's always being uploaded as a PDF. Do not lie. That probably goes without saying, right? But sometimes we have to say it. Don't lie. And then if you, one thing I want to mention about that, if you are uploading it as a PDF, make sure you're listing it as your first and last name. Sometimes you can put like Northrop Grumman resume. I know you're applying for other jobs, but now I especially know because this is the Northrop Grumman resume, so it's probably like a Ball Aerospace resume, a Lockheed Martin resume. I get it. I'm not going to hold it against you, but just make sure you're really you're listing as your first and last name, because it's easier for us when we save the resume. And then don't embellish. That goes in with. Don't lie. Next slide. Awesome. Don't be too proud. I always get my resumes checked. Ayla, do you get your resumes checked?
Yep.
Yeah. We're recruiters. We know how it goes on the other side. And we still get our resumes checked. So please make sure you're asking folks around you, credible folks, right? Maybe some folks aren't the best to ask for resume help. That's completely okay. So just recognize that. Career services. Does career services offer resume help for after students graduate? You know, off the top of your head?
No, I did not know about that.
Does anyone know? When you are officially a USC alum, can you still get help from career services? Yeah. Yeah. So that means
Someone told me a semester after.
semester after. Wow.
Semester or year after?
Well, let's check into that, right? Because you all are going to graduate one day. Hang in there. You are going to graduate. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's great when you start into your job, and now you're getting paid, right? Not paying someone else. So check into that. Check to see if career services offers alumni services of some sort in some sort of way. Because then you can know, even 30 years down the road when you're in your new career or moving from different type of engineering degrees, types, that you can still come back to USC and get that help. So, my pro tip for you all. Excellent. And then final tip, create a master resume. When I say master, what does that mean? Can anyone tell? Someone?
Like what did you go back to? So depending on the job.
Yeah. One long resume, it might be 5 pages. You're never going to turn that into a job, but at least you don't have to start from scratch every time you're applying to a new job. And then every time you're in that new job, let's say you get that job you were originally applying for, add that on your master resume, and as you're going through your job, add to it. Just take those 30 seconds to add to it when you're like, oh, I took on this new task, or I'm managing this new person, or I'm now managing 5 people, or whatever it is, you can now add to it so you don't ever have to start from scratch ever again. I think that's it. Yes, here's an example resume. You can see how easy this is. Now, we show you this example resume. Doesn't mean that everyone in this room has to turn it in exactly like this. This is an option, right? You know, if you don't want your addresses up there, that's completely fine. But this is an option in how you can turn it in. Next. QR code. And I think the next slide, if you head to the next slide. Awesome. There's still that same QR code, but I'll move it over to Kaylee. Kaylee, you have anything you want to add?
Okay, so thank you, everyone. Any questions? I guess we can see questions. Also, just a little shameless plug here. We will be at the resume review next Friday, so come see us. I'll have a few engineers and managers with me as well. So, yeah, and those for the people on Zoom too. Questions? Yes.
Yeah, so I had a few questions. So the first one is when you kind of make distinctions, right? Like suppose you have a publication or a publication award. If you receive that publication, when you're working in a company, do you include that in the internship or work experience, or do you still include it in a different section?
That's where you would have to make that judgment call. So wherever it best fits, wherever you think like it makes sense, whether it was because the publication was, you received it because of that internship, or you just received it because of something else.
What do you think? How will white space there, like the first, like,
Yeah, it just means that we don't, it really comes into fruition with the margins. You just don't want it to be like from literally the left to the right, because you want it to be a page. So just be aware.
How about all the way back? So we'll try to get that.
regarding the education, or master's, let's say if I started this semester, I'm not made person.
I mean, I would probably put my bachelor's degree GPA in there, and then we're aware that people start their masters around this time and don't have a full GPA there, so normally it's kind of like an in progress kind of thing, but I guess you can assume that if you're going into your masters, you're probably going to have a pretty good GPA once you finish your first semester.
Huge, but in progress, not established yet.
Okay.
So you mentioned not putting acronyms into the experience section. What if it's like a well-known like next gen OPIR?
Yeah, still the problem is sometimes we can still think that's like, like that could be acronyms for a lot of different things.
Yeah, sure.
So, you know, even in a different industry. So it's just to be on the safe side. To spell it out.
So if the resume spills over into 2 pages, like there was 2 pages because I had to spell on an acronym.
I would adjust your margins, adjust the font size, really ask yourself, is everything in that?
And then there's little things like, there's little things you can do. If you come to our resume workshop next week, we'll talk about it.
You guys, again.
So I have two questions. First, being you told about not mentioning the language proficiency. So if you're an international student, do you want to highlight that it gives the requisite for someone to have?
Totally, yeah, if you want to, again, if it's relevant, if you have the space, and if you just want to, completely fine. There's just little ways of being able to do things, add things, so you can save space.
And second question is for the acronyms. So if we want to save on space, if you mention the acronym somewhere in the skill section or somewhere like that, it's the complete definition of it, and it's another acronym. And we use it in our job description or anywhere in this. Can we do something like that, that the person is knowing what we are referring to when we say a particular acronym?
The great tester for that is give your resume to someone who's unfamiliar with the industry and see if they pick up on that.
Okay.
That way you can test to see, because they would be unfamiliar with everything, so it's just a great tester for that.
How about links? Like when you open this computer, you can click on things, but when you're printing the training, that's not the case. So I'm always trying to decide whether to show links or drawing a box around them or not.
Yeah.
That's no.
Most of the time we have your resume electronically, so it's pretty easy to click.
Okay.
If you're printing it out to give it to someone, I would say that's a pretty archaic company. I mean, like you can give it to someone at the career fair, but also with career fairs, most of the time people still ask you to upload it electronically. So it's certainly up to you, but.
Yeah, so about hyperlinks, is it okay if we attach links to like important stuff we mentioned in the internship project, like links to publications?
Okay, certainly, that would be awesome. And it's pretty noticeable when it has that blue hyperlink.
Yeah, I actually, just reviewed a USC resume a couple weeks ago and they had a link in there and my manager instantly pulled it up for research. So we definitely do that when we review resumes.
The QR. Oh.
Yes.
One on the chat.
Yeah, probably it's going off. So we can look at it.
I think I saw a question about chronological order. So yes, things should be in chronological order with maybe your current position at the top of your experience and then kind of listing it down. Figuring that out. Other questions on the chat. Anyone have any questions?
And I heard you clearly. Are you asking if you can ask for further contact information?
No, so I converted my resume to a QR code.
Oh.
We do believe, I mean, I saw one the other day on the resume.
But yeah, we would be able to.
But don't, I mean, depending on what it is, so long as it's fitting the situation, you know, there's, at the other day.
Yeah.
Objective statements necessary, recommended, if you're also including a cover letter.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't look at cover letters. We don't even ask for them. People do, they submit them. I don't read them. We only, yeah.
Sometimes the managers.
Sometimes managers.
Yeah, I think for us,
Yeah. We get, you're all interested in the position. That's why you're applying. We get you have experience. That's why you have your resume. You don't need to be reiterating that. 4+1 programs, when we list the graduation date for that as well. Yes, always list the graduation date, regardless, whatever bachelor's degree, master's degree, 4+1 expected graduation date, that helps us know what you qualify for. We're doing a 4+1 program. Should we list the bachelor's and master's as separate items or one? Personal preference, but Haley's separate, yes. Just a quick question, does Northrop Grumman open positions for international graduate students? I am currently an international student. So our basic qualifications are that 3.0 GPA and that anyone who's applying for a position must be eligible to receive a security clearance. The security clearance piece, most of the time, means that folks need to be a US citizen, maybe not all the time, but it goes back to that security clearance piece, which is not really run by Northrop Grumman, that's run by the federal government, because that's who gives you the security clearance. If we're looking for summer internship 2023, should we include courses we're going to study in spring 2023? Spring 2023. 2, yes, you can. I mean, you're gonna take them. Should experience, yep, we answered this, it should be in chronological order. Should we list the project section before the experience section? Personal preference, I would say. And we include software skills that we're going to learn next semester in the resume for now. Yes, I would just make sure you learn them. That's just good. Yeah. What do you add in the GPA for newly admitted grad students? We talked about that. You could say it's in progress. You could say not yet established. How do we list multiple positions / promotions in the same company? I usually list that in the bullet section. Like that's the action word promoted to, blah, 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 right? Whatever that new title is. And I usually list that closer to the top of that piece. Because that's pretty big. To be promoted, that means that that organization acknowledged your hard work and wanted to promote you. So we know what that means as far as today. How do we list multiple? Oh yeah, is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Anything else?
Yeah, it's about the internship, like, if you do a summer internship, do people need security clearance for that?
Not all of them, but we just, again, the basic qualifications is just need to be eligible because we, if we wanted to move within the company, sometimes we do.
So we can still go ahead and like, send them data, like, within the form.
Yeah, you still, yeah, totally, still go.
All my projects internship experience in one classification, so should I put different?
I mean, it's a personal preference. Some people do it different. Some people do one big experience section and then list out within the experience. But we can talk about that next Friday. Yeah. Yes, last question.
You talked about providing links in resume as well. Let's say I have placed into a project report that I worked on. So would you recommend providing the links in resume or creating a different portfolio for that and providing the link for that portfolio?
You have preference? Are you trying to create it separately?
Studies that we might have worked on in bachelor's or.
I would, it's up to you. Whatever you feel like is gonna best highlight your work in a very concise, consistent, and clear way, then I would do that. If it's work, again, that's relevant to the position, definitely highlight it. If it's just one link you're kind of using for different jobs, that's also okay. But just make sure that link is accessible, because sometimes also important to note, we may not be able to access that link because of our security blockers. So just make sure it's like a platform that makes sense for all different organizations.
And just one thing, is it fine to put hyperlink in for the LinkedIn, like just the word and for the hyperlink, because some of these back someone told me to provide the entire link of LinkedIn, to provide the hyperlink on that one word.
As long as it's clear that it's a link. So usually when it's like with blue and yeah, an underline, then we know it's a link. Okay, one last question, yes. Yeah, totally. That's fine. Yeah, because it's still, I mean, even if you are looking for a new career change, like maybe you just changed your major and you're like, whoa, I don't have much, you can still list that too. And then make that clear in the objective statement that you're still looking for that particular. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because there's still those hard skills and then there's those soft skills we're also looking for. And the clubs. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you could do engineering clubs. Yes. That's part. We do look at all of the clubs that you guys do with your student organizations. So if you are part of those, you can also list that as your experience, because I know you guys have like a rocket propulsion lab.
formula racing, car racing, all. And your IGP and everything, so yeah, anything where you're, extracurriculars, where you're still part of like student organizations and working on stuff, that's also a really great experience if you don't have that specific work experience. But I know a lot of the managers are familiar with all the student orgs that go on here at USC, so they understand kind of what you're doing in those roles when you're part of those groups.
See, we're not scary. I don't know what that means, but we're not scary. So thanks so much for coming, everyone. We hope you enjoyed the session. Definitely fill out that link. Again, are gonna help you. That's always our end goal as recruiters. So let us know if you have any questions after the session.
Yeah, and we'll see you next Friday.
Next time.
You guys did amazing. Even I learned some stuff and I was a recruiter before.